Diddy party. This is what happens to the white man. When they come to one of my parties, this is what happens to them.
One of entertainment's biggest powerhouses comes crashing down.
I was up, but I made no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City.
What is next for him, right? You got sentencing, civil suits, a lot to get into. So while Combs was acquitted of racketeering conspiracy and the sex trafficking charges that he was facing, he was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution. Currently, sentencing is set for October 3rd. However, there is a hearing set for July 8th where the defense will be arguing for the sentencing date to be expedited, to happen sooner. Obviously, they want that, considering Combs was also denied bail yet again, despite arguments from his legal counsel after the verdict that he should be released on bond. It didn't happen. They want to make sure this happens as quickly as possible. But what will he be sentenced to, really? That's the question. And also, will the government seize his assets? What about all of those civil lawsuits that he faces? Again, a lot of questions, a lot to get into. So for all of this, let me bring on former sex crimes prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, the great Matt Murphy is with us. Matt, good to see you.
Happy to be here, as always.
Got to ask you your reaction to the verdict. Is it what you expected?
Well, hearkening back to, I don't know, we were talking about this, you and I, a couple of months ago, and I got to say, whether it's fun to be right or not in a case like this, we were both right. This was never a good fit for RICO for a lot of different reasons. And the consent element regarding the sex trafficking was always problematic. And I thought the prosecution here did a good job presenting their case. They did a good job presenting their theory. But when you match in a trial context, when you match like professorial and kind of plotting, which is the way a lot of government lawyers are, versus dynamic and engaging and that personality of the defense, it's always a mismatch. You're always up against it. And the Mann Act, like we talked about, I thought he was going down on that after like the second day of testimony. The problem is for the prosecution, the Mann Act is a very old law, and it was essentially legislative morality from about 100 years ago, where it was transporting prostitutes across state lines. The intent may have been good. It was essentially a very early version of sex trafficking, but it was really more an attempt to stop prostitution, which is, as we know, never going to happen. So almost every lonely guy in New York City who's going through a divorce, who is having a problem in a dating pool, who has some sex worker drive over from New Jersey, if he buys her Uber or his Uber, theoretically, that's a violation of the Mann Act. So that is it's not the same type of crime. There's no mandatory minimum under federal law. The judge does not have to. That. Right. They don't have to. Now, it carries up to 10 years per event. So he faces up to 20 years. The prosecution, I think, is asking for 46 months or something like that. They're asking for far less than that.
If they had called, let's say, Christina Courtroom, okay, this chief of staff who had been mentioned, I think, by almost every witness, and she said, hey, listen, there was a criminal enterprise, okay? We were all a part of it. Everybody knew what the job description was. My job was to do this. His job was to do this. You think they would have gotten racketeering? If they didn't include Jane, who was arguably the more problematic testimony, I mean, Sean Combs still paying her rent, messages that she was setting up a lot of these sexual encounters. Cassie had messages too that were problematic that showed if we're talking about whether she was a willing participant or not. But if you focus just on Cassie and you didn't call in Jane, or you didn't call in a Mia, or you didn't call in a Brianna Bengolan, if you limited the case, and now it's so easy to play, Monday morning quarterback or armchair lawyer here, but do you feel that the prosecution could have won this case?
The trial was chilling. Every day brought a new nightmare to light. Witnesses took the stand with trembling hands and steady voices. Their stories weren't just shocking, they were horrifying. Stories of manipulation, control, intimidation. Tales of people lured into rooms and broken down. And at the center of it all? Diddy. For weeks he sat there, sometimes smug, sometimes silent. But when the final verdict was read, when the judge looked him in the eyes and said the words, that's when he shattered. "Mr. Combs," the judge said, "you built your empire on the pain of others. You silenced voices, ended careers, and destroyed lives. But today, those voices speak louder than ever. Today, justice answers." Boom. A brutal prison sentence, years behind bars.
Who would monitor him. It was interesting because the prosecution at one point had said it's not fair, right? He's a wealthy celebrity who's providing a bail package that other people in his similar position wouldn't be able to provide. Now, the defense was like, well, the only reason we're presenting a package like this is because of what he's accused of and his wealth and his resources. We have to address that in a certain way. The reason it's so extensive is because of his wealth and resources. That bail package that was put forward was rejected by the court. What did you make of that?
Well, at that time, the judge was looking at the RICO Act and sex trafficking. So, Puffy was looking at possibly 25 years, or more, depending on what the guidelines were based on if he was convicted. So at 55 years old, at that time, it's almost a life sentence. So, and he has a lot of wealth and he had a private plane. So the judge was looking at that. Plus, in the federal system, they look at danger to the community. Where in the state system, they're not allowed to look at that. They look at risk of flight. So I think with all the letters behind that were coming in that we were not really privy to from a lot of the alleged victims, I think the judge made a decision that, hey, this is not going to be sufficient enough. I thought that at the end, he kind of, when we brought it on our private security team and we showed him who was going to be doing it, and we did Sam Bankman-Fried. So we knew that, we would be completely covered on that end. And we gave him the idea of there would be no Wi-Fi in the building that we were looking at, and that he would not be able to really be able to connect with anybody but his legal team and his family. We thought at that point that maybe we had a chance, but at the end, the judge denied it, and that's where we stood. And now on this case coming forward, after the convictions, after he wasn't convicted, at the end, we didn't know what he was going to do. So, when Mark reached out to me afterwards, we started thinking about putting another bail package together.
And what is that bail package and by the way, is this a bail package that you think could be submitted again, even after the judge just denied bail?
Well, the judge denied bail based on the statute, and the statute stated a certain amount of information that part of the Mann Act that, was not eligible for bail. There are certain circumstances that can be done. We're going to regroup again. I know that they were going to go talk to Mr. Combs again and see what happens there. They have the October 3rd date. And, I don't know where he stood. As of the other day, he wanted to get out. I don't think anybody wants to be at MDC where he is. So, we're going to reconvene and see what happens, at a later date. We could go back with another package.
Would it require him to stay in New York? Would it be him to be, I know he wanted to go back to his property in Miami, Florida. And there's also an interesting question, I think, that his defense put forward. He just got his life back. That's what they said. He wasn't convicted of the top charges. He was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution, but he would be a fool to try to violate any of those conditions when potentially he may get a rather lenient sentence compared to what he was facing. So 2 questions there. Do you think that it would require him to be in New York as opposed to Florida? And do you think that he'd really be in a position to violate the conditions?
First question is, I can't determine what a judge is thinking. I don't think, and this is my opinion, that the judge would let him out of the jurisdiction. I don't know. We can do private security down in Miami. We could also do private security in California, as we did with Sam Bankman-Fried. I would probably think that if the judge would think about possibly a package, that he would want us to keep him here. When we first put the first package together, going a few months back, we did have an apartment here in the city.
Real time. No deals, no favors, no way out. The courtroom went silent. Then the murmurs started. Gasps. One of his attorneys leaned in, whispering something. But Diddy wasn't listening. He was sobbing, hands over his face, shoulders shaking. This wasn't a mogul anymore. This was a man whose empire had just turned into ashes. The jury watched, some stone-faced, some visibly moved, but all of them stood by their decision, because they had seen the evidence, the tapes, the emails, the testimonies, and they knew what the world now knows, that behind the gloss and glamour was something rotten. The prosecution had been relentless. They built their case brick by brick. Tapes that showed the manipulation, bank records that traced the hush money, texts that confirmed the threats. It was airtight. And the defense? They had charisma. But charisma doesn't stand up in court. Outside the courthouse, chaos, protesters, reporters, supporters, detractors, everyone wanted a piece of the moment. But inside that courtroom, only
recounted a lot of these details that are consistent with the indictment, talking about the freak-offs and all this. It has to be more than just her. So when I hear something like this, I will tell you, out of a lot of the lawsuits that I've covered over the past several months, this is one of them, one of the few that I actually think is the most consistent with what prosecutors are charging Sean Combs with, right? Sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, transportation to engage in prostitution. And it just makes me think that this is why he may play such a crucial role. We could be wrong, though.
And it also talks about Sean Combs physically attacking guests, that he kicked somebody in the stomach, that he kicked somebody in the buttocks. So it's really tying together the theory that the prosecution has put out there in their indictment. And yeah, I mean, I believe that he is a witness. I mean, it's really mimicking a lot of the same things that the federal government is saying that Sean Combs was up to during this time period.
And because the government says, you know, it was a racketeering conspiracy, it was a criminal enterprise. He had associates of his who would set up these events and also clean up these events, which, by the way, let me get back to this lawsuit. Because Pine says his role didn't just stop at preparing this. He also says he had to clean up these rooms afterwards. And the cleanup is not any less disturbing, according to the lawsuit. Plaintiff would remove any evidence of drugs, condoms, sex toys, remove bodily stains like blood, urine, and fluids from any sheets, furniture, and pack away all the items used during Wild King nights. And all of this cleanup, he says, was also part of a cover-up, so that no one would suspect anything was going on. And that alleged cover-up also included leaving very large tips for the housekeeping staff to essentially prevent them from reporting anything. And going even further into the duties of his supposed cleanup, this also extended, as we were talking about, to wiping Diddy's personal devices of any evidence. According to the lawsuit reviewed by Rolling Stone, plaintiff was further instructed to scrub Sean Combs' personal devices, including but not limited to personal phones, laptops, tablets, of any compromising videos. And by the way, unfortunately in doing so, he says he was once again unwillingly exposed to the alleged conduct that was occurring. In order to accomplish this unreasonable task, plaintiff would have to again unwillingly see the video and then erase it. Okay, Mauricio, let me ask you this. How does he prove this? How does he prove all this happens? Is it just his testimony? Will you try to subpoena those people to come forward? How do you prove something was deleted? Talk to me.
Well, first of all, I can only imagine how sloppy Sean Combs was with evidence when he got busted with those 2 machine guns or 3 machine guns with the altered serial numbers. So I really don't trust Sean Combs or the people around him's ability to properly cover up anything. So I envision that you're going to see at trial payments from his Amex for flights for people, straight payments directly from his company to people. And then the time frame is important because this happened in hotels, in places that have surveillance, that there's records that could be consistent with his testimony about when he alleges that these parties took place. He probably has his own information about who attended the events. When you're somebody like Sean Combs and you're such a celebrity and you're engaged in this type of behavior, people around you are memorializing it on their own. So I feel like this guy probably was creating his case prior to him even filing this lawsuit back when it was happening. Because when you're part of this. And if this is true, that he's, threatening you with the threat of being fired, with the threat of, being ostracized in the industry, he may have taken steps to memorialize this himself, saying, you know what, I may have to defend myself in the future, and I'm going to start keeping records of what's going on. So I wouldn't doubt it if we see something like that.
Does it hurt or help him that them talking about Mr. Pines, that he could be seen as an active participant in this, that he was complicit in it? Does it hurt his case? Does it hurt maybe if he takes the stand and testifies?
One thing mattered, the truth. And the truth was devastating. Diddy is going to prison for a long time. And this time, there's no remix, no feature, no escape. It started unraveling long before the sentence. The trial exposed everything. From the so-called freak-off parties to the NDAs, people were forced to sign before walking into his mansion. Rooms filled with cameras, phones confiscated, music blaring. But behind the noise, deals were being made. And lives were being broken. One by one, people spoke out. Some trembled, some stood tall. But all of them carried years of silence, decades of being ignored, until now. One woman described waking up in a room she didn't remember walking into. Another recalled being blackballed from the entire music industry after refusing Diddy's advances. A former assistant showed evidence of messages that made the jury wince, threats disguised as advice. Hush money wired from shell companies, pressure, fear, trauma. The judge listened to every word, and when the prosecution rested, it was already over. Diddy's team tried to spin it. They called it conspiracy. They said he was the target of a takedown. But the evidence didn't lie, and the jury didn't flinch. Guilty on every charge that mattered. And then came the sentencing. The judge didn't hold back. Years stacked, not concurrent, not reduced, not recommended for early release. Years that will be served in full, under federal supervision. No luxury prison, no VIP suite. Just a cold cell, a concrete bed, and the constant reminder that power doesn't last forever. As the sentence was read, Diddy broke. Not a tear, not a whimper, a full collapse. His shoulders convulsed, his face twisted in disbelief. He turned to his lawyers looking for some loophole, some miracle, but none came. And outside, the world erupted. 50 Cent posted within minutes. Told y'all. Now let's see who's next. He wasn't joking, because this verdict didn't just shake Diddy, it shook the entire industry. Whispers are now roars. Executives are nervous. Artists are distancing themselves. Brands are severing ties. Radio stations are pulling his catalog.
Today, he's been indicted and will face justice.
He's dealt with every challenge in his life, and he's not guilty. He's innocent of these charges.
As his controversial past faces questions that could reveal long-buried secrets.
For myself, and I think a lot of other people in this industry, I mean, it's all a shock.
Hey there, everybody, I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime, where we break down some of the most compelling and memorable true crime cases from across the country. Hollywood celebrities are no stranger to controversies, and they can often become targets due to their high-profile status, but with several allegations now swirling around a famed music producer and hip-hop icon, he may have to soon face the music himself.
He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice.
U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, is talking about 54-year-old Sean Combs, aka Diddy, the musician, producer, and business mogul who rose to fame as one of hip-hop's biggest personalities.
New York, we did it! Harlem, we did it, Mount Vernon, we did it! The Bronx, we did it! Let's go! The key to the city! Yeah, yeah, yeah!
But now, Combs is charged in a federal indictment, accused of sex trafficking and racketeering. How did we get here exactly? To answer that, we have to venture back to Combs' rise among the Hollywood ranks.
Diddy was born in Harlem. After his father was murdered, he went to an all-boys Catholic school and then went off to Howard University. And that's when he started throwing these parties. And Diddy was always the life of the party.
What's up, y'all? Coming here live from London. Extremely humble, grateful, and blessed. Just got nominated for a Grammy.
Eventually, he obtained an internship at Uptown Records, and that is where his career in music begun.
Today's honoree is the first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, honoring Sean Diddy Combs.
Not only is he a rapper, not only is he a music mogul, this individual is a legend. Who knew that this bad boy was going to turn into a great man?
By 1990, he's working as a talent director for Uptown, but he hits it big 3 years later when he starts Bad Boy Entertainment. From there, it just explodes. He's signing people as a producer, big names like Notorious B.I.G., Usher, Mary J. Blige. It's music, it's fashion with Sean John, where he's a founder. He was literally the top of the world when it came to music, entertainment, alcohol, anything that he touched. He had the Midas touch.
Congratulations. Get that chair shot one more time to make sure y'all got it.
And over here with the cheers. Love it.
His empire extended well past his kind of rapping career. That's where he was making more of his money, actually, was off of his, I guess, material empire.
He seemed to be really dedicated to being successful in the industry. And he decided that instead of following someone around, he would make his own way. And he did that. He also is presumably a family man. He has been in some very public relationships. There's Kim Porter. I think we all remember his relationship with Jennifer Lopez. He has 7 children, and he really takes pride, at least publicly, in being involved as a father.
It's no secret how prominent Combs has been.
TV networks are quietly editing him out of footage. What was once royalty is now radioactive. The entire music industry is facing a reckoning. Diddy's name is no longer on contracts. It's in court documents. His face is no longer on billboards. It's on mugshots. His empire is no longer feared. It's crumbling. Behind the scenes, former allies are flipping. People are cooperating. There are reports of sealed indictments. This isn't over. It's just begun. The Diddy case is ground zero, and the aftershocks are spreading fast. And in prison, Diddy is just another inmate. No staff, no entourage, no protection, just 4 walls and time. Time to think about the careers he destroyed, the voices he silenced, the lives he played with. He built an empire on secrets, but secrets rot. And when they surface, they destroy everything in their path. This isn't just about one man. It's about an industry built on silence and survival. And the survivors are done being quiet. In court, the judge quoted one of Diddy's own lyrics. "You said, can't stop, won't stop. Well, today, the justice system stopped you. No applause, just reality. And now, everyone's watching. Every producer, every label head, every party planner, everyone who was part of the machine, they're next. Because this wasn't just Diddy's fall. It was a message, loud and clear. Your money won't save you. Your fame won't protect you. Your team can't clean this up. And the fans? They're conflicted. Some defend him. Others delete his music. Some say it's all a setup. Others say it's karma. But none of that matters, because the courts already decided Diddy is done. And the streets know it. The industry knows it. Even he knows it. The tears weren't for the cameras. They were for the empire that's now dust. The legacy is gone. The power is gone. The myth is gone. What's left is just a name attached to pain. And the courtroom, it didn't blink. Game over.